Hi, beautiful human. I'm Zach, and we welcome to the studio Bear and Barlow. Barlow and Bear. Woo! Hi.
Hi.
What's going on?
So much.
Oh, you know, living the dream.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
When you say that, like some people say that and they don't necessarily mean it, but when you say it in this moment,
I kind of say it sarcastically, but also semi-truthfully.
this is the dream.
Yeah.
It is the dream, but with the dream comes lots of highs and lows, you know?
Can you describe some? I mean, we know the highs. The highs are history making, debuts.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you've made history as the first all-woman music team to bring to life.
Yeah, I mean, the stats are wild. You never really expect to be a part of anything like that or be a part of a sentence like that when you start anything. So it's weird,
Yeah.
but it's cool.
But those are the highs, but what are the lows?
I just think when you have a project like this, especially with this many eyeballs, you care so much and you put so much heart and soul and many years of your life into it. So it's like birthing a baby. And, there's some postpartum depression. There's a lot of opinions, and it's just riding the highs and surfing the lows and trying to figure out your emotions through it all. So I'm working on it. She's doing a lot better than I am.
I'm just tired, Yeah. I was watching Julie Andrews break down her career, and I saw Victoria recently, which is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, it's an incredible film.
I'm in the middle of a Harry Potter marathon right now.
I highly recommend it. But she says something in the movie. She's like, I could sleep for a calendar year. And I was like, no, that's how I feel that way. Because she plays a performer in the film.
Yeah.
And she goes on this tour of just performing a bunch. And then she says she can sleep for a year. And that's what we've been doing. So
do you feel like you go on autopilot during these moments?
sometimes. But also I feel present today, which is good.
Oh, yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed when we talked at the Grammy Museum because I feel like a lot of the times it's the same 5 questions over and over again. So then you really go on autopilot, but then you were asking us very interesting and thought-provoking things. So I enjoyed that.
I got to say, thank you for having me at the Grammy Museum. But also, it's a very interesting concept. It's if you ever come to LA, you got to go. You got to go to the Grammy Museum. It's amazing. It's just a capsule of all things music and culture. And they do these musical series, and there's an interview attached to it. And I've done now 2. But they'll never necessarily see the light of day. But they're locked in an archive somewhere. For people to piece together culture and history and understanding of music, and it's amazing. You gotta go.
It's
You
really
cool.
beautiful and intimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's all music fans. I had never to just be in that room and to just feel, I don't know, surrounded by people who were very like-minded, right?
Yeah.
This idea that they respect and appreciate the creation of something that comes from literal nothing. And in this case, you had some stuff to work with based on and in a lot of cases, you have a baseline of inspiration that you're kind of can you describe the process? Because you have to take it apart like nobody's business, right? To understand it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, animation is a beast like nothing else I've ever experienced. It's constantly evolving up until you see it on a screen. And it's kind of the same with music. It's a big conversation with a big creative team. And yeah, it has many, many lives.
Yeah, and it's such a long rolling process, and it crawls it's like a hurry up and wait sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Because you can't write before animation, and animation can't animate before you write, and it kind of all has to grow together. So obviously it doesn't take us 2.5 years to write 6 songs, but it takes us 2.5 years to write a bunch of songs and revise it 10,000 times until it's finally done.
But you're dealing with a lot of characters that are, there's Bibles on these characters.
Yeah.
They're the right way. There's not a situation that these animators and directors and everybody, they've thought through Moana. In almost any possible situation, there's a way that only Moana can respond.
Right.
Yeah, and it was a funny thing because at the beginning of the process, I think we wanted to show Moana's vulnerability a little bit more than she would as a character. you know, because there was a song that we wrote called "Save Me From Myself." It was really dark.
It was.
But as a series, we were able to take it a little darker and end on like a bad note instead of having it have a shred of hope, as you know most Disney films need to have.
Right. It could be like, you know, oh, she's in a really dark place. End episode. Where do we go next? You know?
Yeah, and we all loved the song so much. I love the title because I think it's beautiful, and it felt great in the moment. But we were like, this doesn't quite feel like Moana. You know, she wouldn't pity herself this much. You know, she's a little more selfless than that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't make it in.
So, but where does a song like that maybe end up? Or does it just go...
In an unnamed Dropbox folder.
Yeah.
And the Disney archives.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I heard you kind of mention like end of episode. There was a rumor online that Moana 2 was meant to be a series.
Yeah, it's not a rumor.
It started
It's real.
as a series, yeah.
It did start as a series, but I think there's a misconception. I think there was a misconception that we just kind of took all 5 episodes and glued it together to make a movie. It's not the case at all. The emotional pillars were the same, but turning it into a movie just kind of allowed the options to explode and the world to get bigger, because with a bigger budget and no constraints, like we could really kind of let loose. So,
Can you describe, I mean, like, okay, are there any similarities between the projects that you've worked on that, like, I'm just going to name a couple that, like, the public has really latched onto. By public, I mean myself. Mexican Pizza Musical, Bridgerton, and Moana. Is there a similarity or a common thread between all those?
I think the creative process, maybe, just like the way we write together, that's probably the common thread. Just like the fact that we have created such a rapport in the writer's room. But everything else about all 3 of those projects are so different from each other.
but I do kind of feel like there's similarity just because you're telling story through song. And you're putting yourself in the shoes of characters that are not yourself. And I think that is a through line between every musical theater project. But also, being in the industry, we've been a part of like dozens of projects that have either lived and died or are still in development throughout the past 3-4 years. And so I feel like they're all sort of connected because we're doing the same thing, just in different worlds.
It's true, right? Like it's like can you describe like what that quality is? Like, is it empathy? Like, is it your ability to put yourself in the shoes of the Mexican pizza that gives you a whole new perspective?
I think so. I think that's a big part of it. But I also think, you know, after Lin-Manuel threw books at me, that it is quite a science too. Like there is a way to succinctly and pleasingly tell stories through music that an audience can respond to, you know? So I think it's a little bit of both.
You're talking about Lin-Manuel Miranda giving you guys just materials to understand the science behind the structure of a song.
Yeah.
What did you really learn that you applied here?
I think how important like classical musical theater fans and writers really lean into the true rhyme of it all. Like some people are like true rhyme purists. They will only write musical theater songs if there are true rhymes and not imperfect rhymes. But I'm a fan of pop music, and like imperfect rhymes are all over pop songs, you know? So that's what I was used to, is just finding like a word that was near what I needed, you know? But for this project, we would be going back and forth and trying to find lyrics that fit. And we would, you know, suggest one, and I'd be like, Emily would suggest one, and I'd be like, it's not a true rhyme. Not a true rhyme. It's got to be true. And it's really important, like, to the way that audiences, like, I guess, perceive songs and lyrics, like what they think will come next, and if it's like pleasing to the ear or not. It's kind of fascinating, like sibilance and the way that that is perceived by an ear. I learned a lot from like Stephen Sondheim's book, from Ira Gershwin's book. Those were great reads.
Yeah.
Knowledge you'll use over and over again.
Yeah.
I think less in lyrics and more in structure and what sounds good, like what feels good. I find that a lot of songs that I listen to that I love, I just like the way it feels. and then I listen to the lyrics. But there are songs that I listen to lyrics first, but I feel like I'm always sound first, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, but with musical theater, the lyrics have to move
obviously.
along the story.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
But in that moment, don't you realize that you guys are really a great partnership?
Yeah.
yeah. We see music completely differently, which I think is what makes it work.
Well, and the sign of like a good team, right, is like, well, I think the smartest person in the room knows what they don't know. And then they know how to like complement themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a good team knows how to like kind of fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I always say that you could be in a room with the most talented person in the world and it just won't work sometimes because you might bring the same things to the table and that's not fun because why would you want to write with someone who does the same exact things that you do?
And it's like competitive as opposed to complimentary.
Or it's just like you feel like there's a missing piece of the puzzle. And for some reason we have like completely complementary skill sets, but enough is crossed over to make the writing process smooth and fun.
Yeah.
How do you, like, how many projects will you juggle at one time together? Like,
Oh,
how
I
many
mean, it
worlds
depends.
can you really be in? Or how many, can you really conjure up that many spirits of these characters at the same time?
I mean, we've definitely attempted it. I think we have juggled more in the past together than we are juggling right now.
Yeah.
And so I think but like projects live and die. You know what I mean? Like it's rare that things get made.
Like I know
At all.
the only thing we can mention or like really reference is Mexican pizza and Bridgerton. But like I said, we've been a part of so many projects and movies and musicals that are either still developing or have kind of lived and died or got messed up by the strikes. And who knows what's going to happen with them. So there's been a lot of things that we've had to, that we've had our hand in. And I think that's been such incredible practice. Because there's so many different worlds and styles and genres and
Yeah. If nothing
Characters,
else,
yeah.
good practice.
Practice. Practice in what ways?
Just, I think the art and the empathy of stepping into a character's shoes is something that like kind of takes a little bit of practice. Like
Yeah.
the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's a muscle like anything else.
You know, musicians come here all the time and they talk about like getting beamed down a song from the universe
Yeah.
and they just like write it and they don't even know what they were writing and it's just there.
Yeah.
Does any of that apply to this, what seems to be rather strategic and methodical
Yeah.
way of making music that is built around essentially someone else's IP?
yes. I feel like 15 or 20% of the time that we write, we hit like this nirvana pocket where it's just like
Nirvana pocket.
flowing and it's falling out of us. And then afterwards, we're like, I don't know how we did that. And the rest of the time, we're trying to chase that feeling. And I swear, there are some songs that we've written where I'm like, I do not know how we did that. I don't know how I thought of that. I don't know how you thought of that. And it just happens. And Abigail used to always say, like, you pluck it out.
Yeah. I was after the Grammy Museum, I was talking to my friend and she was like, I just love that conversation. And then I had sort of a visual that like every creative artist has a little cloud of songs above their head. And every time you sit down to write, you can pluck one out, but you have to have certain life experiences in order to like unlock a new level of song. And I think that's so fascinating. I think
Real.
when we met, we unlocked a whole new cloud together.
Not you gamifying songwriting.
I mean, it feels like a game.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
But it is also a muscle.
Yeah.
And there is something to like reach, like, do you remember, like, when you reach that quote unquote nirvana pocket, like, is that due to, like, what do you attribute that to? Is it deeper understanding of the characters you're writing from the perspective of? Is it like a comfort level? Because there has to be a moment in time, like throughout this process, where you feel like you really understand Moana, right? Like, and that's probably not instantly.
I think it's like you unlock a little fake door
Yeah.
and then you step through and you're like, oh, cool.
It's like you feel that the song has a direction, you know?
You have a path to follow.
You have a path, yeah.
Otherwise, you're just floating and you're like, what's happening? What
Right,
do I
there's a
write?
million different paths you can choose, but once you find the one,
Yeah.
you hit the nirvana pocket.
But sometimes you find a path that doesn't feel good. And I feel like you can kind of tell when things feel good.
Yeah.
Like when we wrote a bunch of the Bridgerton songs, I'm like, oh, when we hit those pockets, like when we were writing Every Inch, I remember it so vividly. I remember it so vividly. When you hit it, you just go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But then there were other songs that like never made it in that we were like, does this work? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so like something else in pop music is like people will go back to old records and then rework it.
yeah.
I don't know if that rule applies here necessarily, right? Like you're not going to pull one from the archives on Mexican Pizza and be like, dude, I'm working on Stitch the Musical. I think there's crossover.
We actually
I think it is possible. Obviously,
Really?
lyrics need to change.
Yeah.
But if a song has like a structure and bones that feel really good, like we were just talking to this Broadway producer and we played him a song that we'd written a couple years ago that project is in limbo, but it's one of our favorite songs we've ever written. And he's like, oh my God, we need this song. So obviously the lyrics would have to change, but the song and the bones of it are good.
Yeah. Yeah, weirdly enough, one of the songs in Mexican Pizza, the musical, is basically a parody song of a song that we wrote for like a serious movie musical that never made it in. So we were like, why don't we repurpose this? And we did. We changed the lyrics from I find little pieces of you to I find all the cheeses of you in every bit of the music. Like silly stuff like that. So
Just one
slice. It was called Just One Song, and we changed it to Just One Slice.
Honestly, when you really think about that, that hits.
It does. It does.
I got beans. That was a fever dream, and it was like just a little funny.
I got beans. I got meat. I need a show with the sauce and cheese. So good.
What do we want?
Taco Bell.
It was just ridiculous. It was
Yeah.
one of those like really fun, ridiculous projects, and because it was so ridiculous, you could just have fun with it and do whatever you want. We're like, okay, this is cool.
Well, because like I know the guys at Taco Bell. They're just down for fun. Like they
Huge
set,
fan of the Taco Bell creative team.
dude.
Like,
They set very little rules, and they kind of just let you go
Yeah.
and do your thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's like that could be a blessing and a curse.
I think the only things that we really had to be careful of was remember when we had to change like sour cream to like whatever the trademark name of like the Taco Bell sour cream
Yeah, of
was.
course.
And I think we had a couple more jokes poking fun at Taco Bell that they had us tone down a little bit.
I understand why that would feel like a fever dream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then like getting to work with Dolly Parton as she, did the voiceover for the Mexican Pizza box, like that was crazy. Being like, oh, hey Dolly, on Zoom.
What a collaboration.
Yeah.
Hey Dolly, you should really embody the spirit of the cheeses a little bit more. Like what?
You took a slice right out of our hearts, the perfect creation right from the start. Oh, and we'll never recover.
Mexican pizza.
You took a slice right out of our heart.
Yeah.
When we took a bite from your work of art. Oh, and we'll never recover. Miss you like a lover. Mexican Pizza, why did you leave us?
Wow.
Profound.
So what do you are you going lyric for lyric in that moment, or are you just channeling in a subconscious energy your love for a Mexican pizza, or putting yourself in the shoes of someone who loves it so deeply?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And like there was a part of it
Empathy.
we put like a seance in one of the songs because when the Taco Bell Mexican Pizza left the menu, there was like this viral TikTok video of these people putting on a seance. I'm not saying
Like
that correctly.
witches putting on
trying to like bring the Mexican pizza back from the dead.
Which
So we're
is-
like, we got to put that in.
So silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
It
started.
all makes sense.
The lyrics I remember because we were in our
Richard's
office, our agent, and I think you played something, and I was like, "Seems like just yesterday. You spent every moment next to me sipping a Baja Blast." That was the first thing we.
I think didn't we do chorus first? I feel like I was going da da ga 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 ga. It was like the that
Maybe.
we like latched onto.
Maybe so. I just remember Baja Blast being really, really early in the writing process.
So like, there's definitely no way that a record starts for you guys. Like, it has to start from a bunch of different variations of ways, or is there a single way? Because like, even that, like, what noise did you just make? Is that like?
It was a rhythm. It's like da ga da da ba ba ga da da. It's like a little staggered rhythm.
Will a record start that way?
Sometimes
It starts from anywhere. So, like, the Maui song in Moana 2, Can I Get a Chee-Hoo?
So good.
Started with the idea of Chee-Hoo.
Yeah. But then we're like, how do we use this where it's not really cringy? And what unlocked it was, can I get a Chee-Hoo?
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about that, but it just felt like a hyped up kind of chant.
Yeah.
Which fit into what Maui needed to do and Dwayne's character.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it was it. Then the whole thing kind of just built itself around that.
Yeah.
And Beyond was, the music came first,
Mm-hmm.
lyric came second. And then once you had the idea for Beyond, we got the chorus right away.
Yeah.
It's just finding like the golden nugget. Once you find the nugget, you can build out around it.
What were you given as a prompt for Chee-Hoo?
I guess it was like, kind of, we got the moment before, which was like the context in which the song would live, which is like, Moana is kind of failing at her job and kind of sucking, and like one of her crew almost dies. Spoiler alert, sorry. If you haven't seen it, but she's in a really dark place, and
I feel like she feels a responsibility so heavily to take care of this crew and to find this island, because she knows that so much is hanging on to that. So that when she has this like really, really near death experience and she sees one of the members of her crew almost die, it like really breaks her down.
yeah. And so then Maui has to buoy her spirits. And that was kind of the context we got. And then some ideas on how that would play out. I think like when they were doing like layouts of the scene and sort of talking through the song, just sort of like in a screening, it was like Lose Yourself, the Eminem song, was sort of like playing in the background. So it was, they wanted a hype.
They wanted to be macho and hypey, and Jared, our executive producer, one of our writers, was like really into the idea of having a very small kind of talky verse and then exploding into a big chorus. And that's what it ended up being. So,
Yeah.
Great song. But I feel like you have to really know these, like you have to know this demigod to like really write these lyrics.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, that bullying storm god skips leg day for real. You think it's doomsday, to me it's just Tuesday. Like are you going back and forth? Like,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
And we also go back and forth with writers. So, like, we'll do a draft, we'll do a version, then we'll present it to the team, and then we'll go back and forth on lyrics. So the first verse of that song, I think, changed a lot because, like, just nailing the tone was really important. And also, every time we start a song, no matter what project we're on, we ask our writers to do, like, a word we ask our writers to do a word vomit doc.
quite literally what you just said, yeah.
A word vomit doc where they just give us like a stream of consciousness of the character in that particular moment. And obviously, like, they're not trying to rhyme, they're not trying to make it look pretty or sound pretty, but just having a bunch of things to spark something in our brains is really helpful.
Words and themes to play off of.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, so what, like you mentioned when we were talking at the Great Museum, you do a lot of Zoom stuff.
Yeah.
But like,
Burbank to West Hollywood is so
It's
far.
too far a drive.
So far.
no, you need a passport. It's a whole thing.
We're in a long distance relationship.
But like, I have this vision of like a giant whiteboard, but no, you just have notes individually going. Like, how do you
Google Doc.
Google Doc
Google
is
Docs.
our fave.
Big fan of Google Doc.
Yeah, same.
So we have a Google Doc. If we're on Zoom, then I'm working in Logic and I share my screen.
And her audio.
Yeah. So she can hear everything that's happening on my computer.
What were you about to say?
That was it.
No, that was it.
Yeah.
And then, like, as we're kind of working or sort of like spitballing ideas, as she's building out a track, I'll like mute myself and sort of like, voice memo lyric ideas and things like that and send it to her. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't.
And then I'll usually put down a really bad scratch vocal just as like a guide. And then she sings it for real and makes it sound really pretty.
So, okay. Are you writing or like figuring out the sonic structure of this thing based on tone for the scene, or?
Yeah, like sometimes I write just on a piano, but I find that since I kind of grew up in the scoring world and I mock everything up when I do everything. So like I flush it out, I produce it out. So you're not just going to hear a piano and vocal like a lot of musical theater demos. You're going to hear a whole band or a whole orchestra because I don't know. I just find that it inspires me and us more to do that. And also when I play music for the team, any creative team, I want them to hear what I'm hearing in my head. So, like, yeah, we could just send a piano vocal demo, but I would rather present something that's much more accurate of what it will sound like.
So
You know
you're
what I
literally
mean?
producing it in your house.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Oh, thanks.
You both are amazing. You really are. It's like together you're like unstoppable. Like, but individually you're still one in a trillion. Like watching you play piano is one of the coolest experiences ever. I just gotta say,
magical.
yeah,
And I feel like those pieces are not even like cool piano pieces.
They are. And you know they are.
yeah, but like you just casually the other day were like, yeah, because there's no band, I just have to fill it out and do it myself. It's like, what are you talking? What?
Well, yeah, because you wanted to sound like as full and nice as possible.
Yeah.
And it does. And just to watch you do the whole, like, you are, to say a prodigy is like an understatement. Like, dude, you played for presidents. You were on the Ellen Show numerous times. It's true.
It is true. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people make the connection pretty late. We're like, oh, you were that girl on Ellen. And I was like, yeah, that was me.
Guilty.
Cool to play for a president.
Yeah,
That's
I-
amazing.
that was fun. I do remember running through the White House.
Running through.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, and I met the Jonas Brothers, but I was sick, so I was like, who are these boys and why is everyone so into them?
That's iconic.
Yeah.
What piece did you play at the White House?
I do not remember. I did like a piano like recital
Do you
basically.
do you remember the performances you do?
Some of them, for sure. Like obviously the ones as I got older I remember a lot more. When I was 6.
No, hard to remember.
But I remember like certain things.
Do
know?
Do you ever remember actually playing, or do you remember just the things outside of it?
Probably a little bit of both. I remember the bad ones the most.
But what does it mean to have a bad performance?
Well, when you make mistakes. Like, I remember this one show when I was 16. I was on this tour in Europe, and there's a moment where I'm just, like, fully solo in this arena, and I start with, like, the beginning of this Rachmaninoff concerto, and it's like, gah, gah, like, big chords, super bare, and I, like, hit a wrong note, like, really badly, and then I freaked myself out so much that I hit, like, 3 more wrong notes in a row, but not like little wrong notes that you can hide, like big bad wrong notes. And I just remember crying after that show. I feel like really sad.
Because like in some cases there are issues that only you can hear.
Yeah, I feel like you could hear that one, but who knows? Most of the time when Abigail is like, "Oh, that one note," I'm like, "I didn't hear anything," and I have obviously hawk ears. And when I feel like I've messed up something drastically, she's like, "Emily, shut up," and she has great ears too, obviously. So like, we're our worst critics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also like keeping yourselves balanced and grounded in some sort of reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the worst part about like doing performances over and over again of like the same material is that when you see it back, like when I watch the Grammy Museum, I'm like, oh, I can tell I'm nervous, or I can tell because I was feeling that at the time.
Yeah.
But like stepping back and like having my peers, like my friends tell me like, Abigail, you sounded great. Like stop worrying so much.
Yeah.
It's just like you become your own, like she said, own worst critic.
I got to say, you're amazing.
Thanks.
I agree.
And you kind of crafted some pretty hard lyrical pieces to just whip out there. Like it's really fast, and it's it's difficult.
I just gotta say, it's really hard to pull off "Get Lost" and "Chee." Those are 2 very different vibes of songs, and like even a girl who can belt out "Get Lost," delivering the acting that Chee needs to come across well. It's hard.
Well, because there is, like, again, we interview all types of musicians, but a lot of the musicians who perform live, a lot of their songs are crafted from a position of being conscious of that.
Yeah.
But in this situation, like, That's not at all in your thought pattern. Like, you're just thinking about crafting the best song for that moment to push the story forward,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Which helps when she can sing anything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I do my best. I love putting on characters. I always have. Like, I created characters when I was a teenager and, like, you know, cracked up my whole family with them. So I love that. I love being silly. And I like Chee is the perfect song to just explore that and, like, have fun with it. And I love fast rapping. I always have.
You also write from the perspective of, like, I mean, can you, like, is she a villain?
Matangi.
No.
I mean, I don't think
Not
she is.
really. Like, she holds, you know, the demigod hostage, but then
She's a villain for a second.
yeah.
No, she's just layered.
Okay,
She has
interesting.
like she has her own reasons to do what she's doing. I do sort of feel like if it served her to like fuck Moana over and help Nalu. Jesus, I'm sorry. If it served her to like screw Moana over and help Nala, she would do it.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
But in this circumstance, you know, it serves her to help Moana. Mm-hmm. So I think she's very multi-layered. I don't think she's a bad person. I think she just has her own agenda.
Are you channeling her while writing? Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah.
Like, I have this image of you, like, in, like, cloaked out in this, like weird hooded thing, like, waltzing around your house, trying to figure out how to, like, craft a story from her perspective.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't that. It was just more of a Zoom.
It was more of a Zoom, yeah.
It was actually a Zoom.
I mean, we knew she was dramatic. We knew she was stuck in this clan for 1,000 years. And so, like, that was the place to start, you know? They gave us sort of a context of, like, why she would be singing this to give Moana sort of that advice of getting lost.
And we wanted to have the bad advice come across first, where it's like, that's not helpful. She's trying to, like...
On its surface, get lost sounds like terrible advice.
And then have a moment where you kind of see inside her mind and where she's trying to say, like, listen to me. Like, listen to what I'm saying, read between the lines, which is what we get to in the bridge. But we knew that the girl who was playing Matangi Afimai had an amazing voice, so we could write vocals. And then also we wanted it to sound different from the rest of the characters. So we got to, like, sidestep from Moana World a little bit and do something a little different, which also makes sense with the advice that she's giving Moana, because it's all about, like, you have to forget everything you know, you have to get a little lost to find your way. And so musically, it kind of did that too.
And that came to you from, like, you had, like, there was, like, a cultural, like, cabinet, essentially, that you would consult with throughout the process of this. And didn't that lyric about, like, getting lost come from them?
Yeah. It was getting lost is the pathway to finding magic.
That's so, like, that, since you said at the Grammy Museum, has, like, I've resonated with me.
Which is true. Like, I feel like all of our greatest moments where we feel the most pride and when we probably feel like our lives have changed the most don't come from when things were all happy and amazing. It comes from when you really feel lost and you find your way and you figure it out because you're forced to think differently than if you were just sitting inside of your own little comfortable world. And we were talking to real-life wayfinders when we did that. And I feel like that was really profound because we were asking them just, like, what it felt like to be on a canoe in the middle of the ocean with no one to turn to. Like, these boats are small. Can you imagine?
No.
Just seeing nothing, and you're on this tiny little boat with a bunch of people, and you're hit with, I'm sure, all of these insane things and, like, what that does to your psyche. And that's where that song was born.
It's really, I mean, can you just describe what it was like working with people who, I mean, dude, they are the culture. They're responsible. They live the culture. And then they're also responsible with educating people that can help keep that culture alive and vibrant and reach new audiences and spread understanding. I mean, that's a huge responsibility, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one that we didn't take lightly. Disney didn't take lightly. Like, they seriously provided us with everything we could have ever needed. And it was fascinating. Like, I feel like I'll take what I learned about Polynesian Pacific Island culture with me my whole life.
Yeah. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Disney, but you have to acknowledge that they treat whatever culture they're dealing with the utmost care and respect. Like, we saw it firsthand everything has meaning behind it and is researched, from the way Moana's hair is parted to like the etchings on a side of a canoe that you see for half a second, like everything. There is no stone left unturned. And obviously music is such a big part of the culture. It's how they keep their stories alive. We wanted to respect that and stay true to that. And working with Opataya was also amazing because that added a bunch of layers and more depth and meaning to anything we could have written, obviously.
He's amazing, and his band's incredible. Yeah. And this is their second time working on the movie. So gifted.
Oh, my God.
But it is, that detail, it matters because that movie, Moana 1 and 2, that could be someone's only experience or interaction with Polynesian Pacific Islander culture ever. Could also be their introduction to it. So to get it right I don't know, it all matters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
does.
Dana and David are two of our directors, and they both have Samoan ancestry. They said like the most impactful messages they've received are from the Polynesian and the Pacific community. Like the fact that they got so many details right just means the world to all of these people. And I mean, I even saw this girl who tagged us in a video of her singing Beyond this morning.
Aww.
Sounds amazing. But she is Samoan, and she was recording her singing, and she gets to I Am Moana of the land and of the sea, and she like chokes up and starts crying. She's like, I gotta redo that. And she redoes it. But she was just like, these lyrics, they resonate. And I'm like, oh, the fact that we were able to touch someone who lives inside of this world means the most.
By the way, these lyrics have touched many people. There's literally millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of kids who are singing these lyrics probably like right now. I work with parents. The second they knew you were coming in, they were like, dude, Chee, who is all my kid has been screaming? Like that
makes me happy.
Think about that for a second. Like that's
the true critics, they have spoken.
Yeah.
It matters.
It does.
It does.
It is the most important thing, I think, in this case.
Beyond, by the way, being not like considered for some Oscar love.
I'm gonna throw up.
No pressure, no stress.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say anything, and I also like to go into things with the lowest expectations possible, so I'm always happy. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It would be insane.
Yeah. It would be a crazy honor.
I just gotta say, yes, you two are incredibly talented, like 1 in a trillion type talent. And when combined, it's like unstoppable, and like the sky's the limit is an understatement. But like you guys have worked really hard to get here, but also you manifested incredibly well, whether you knew it or not. You have had something hanging on your wall since you were a kid.
Yeah. I actually met the guy who ended up hiring us for this gig when I was like 7 or 8. I don't remember how it happened.
I know, it's crazy.
I think I was here for like an Ellen Show performance, and I went to Disney for a meeting, and I don't know who I was meeting and why I was there, but I do remember meeting Tom McDougall, and he, for some reason, he brought us to the basement and showed us through like the Disney archives.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he gave me like this signed piece of music from Tangled that Alan Menken signed.
What piece was it?
I don't remember. I think it was the ballad. Blessed I see the light.
Love that.
No. And it was still hanging in my room, which is crazy. And then the fact that he's the one who hired us for this is just like funny. I don't think he remembers it, but I do.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
But because like you looked at that almost every day. It had meaning and significance.
It's wild. And obviously Disney music, we grew up on this like everyone else. And we idolize these soundtracks and these movies like everyone else. So, I mean, it's beyond our wildest dreams. Beyond.
No pun intended.
Not every time I use that word.
I know. And I mean, like, I grew up thinking I wanted to do pop music, but I also grew up with an entire wall of musical theater posters. Like, literally, my family loved to collect them and have everybody in the Broadway cast sign them. So there's just, it was literally like a full wall of Broadway posters. And no, they took it down.
What?
I know. annoying.
Do you still have the playbills?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
They're big posters, but like I grew up, that was my background for all of my Musically TikTok videos. Like was me singing in front of this giant wall of musicals.
I'm so dead. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's funny that we're, you know.
You got to recreate that. Bring him to LA.
Are musicals going to be what you guys do full time?
I mean,
I think they're going to be a huge part of our life for a long time.
yeah.
Like I know that we want to do other things as well. I want to live in the scoring world. Maybe release some music for funsies.
I love to do pop music and, you know, would love to sing it in front of people. That'd be great.
There's a million different things that I want to do, but I
Range.
don't think I ever expected musical theater to be this huge pillar of my life, especially at this point.
But it makes sense. Like it makes all the sense. It's,
I
you
love
know,
it.
We love it. Yeah.
Things that are meant for you come to you. Things that aren't meant for you, they tend to avoid you.
Yeah.
So,
Which is a blessing, you know.
well, this is like, I'm a musical theater kid. I grew up right outside of Manhattan. Like, would go on the discount tickets with my mom. Like, it's
Love.
raised me. I think it's time for there to be a really cool, fresh perspective in the musical theater world. You know, and like
We agree.
you deserve a Broadway show. Like what?
Yeah. I mean, we are working on a couple. There's one that we got hired on, but it's a story that like we both really love, and the creative team's amazing, and so we've kind of like just started that, and we're going to New York every month now, which is really fun and exciting. But there's another project that I think embodies that new, fresh kind of perspective because sonically it's very different than anything I've heard on Broadway.
Yeah.
And it's music that we met writing on, and it has stood the test of time for both of us. And so our big goal of 2025 is to get that really rolling.
What are you alluding to?
I don't know. We want this show to happen.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be on Broadway before either of us turns 30.
Yeah. I want to be in it. And it's about
Abigail needs to be in it.
it's about like teenage kids. So
I love it.
yeah.
I like the mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please keep coming on our show though.
Oh my
No, please
gosh.
keep having us.
As
You're
you release
wonderful.
stuff.
Anytime you call. we'll be
You're
here.
no real recognizes real. Thank you for coming and hanging out. I really appreciate you guys more than anything. Like you're again, one in a trillion. It's a unique energy when I'm around you. So no, it's cool. Like again, like I'm a musical theater guy. I'm also a Disney freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah, I look forward to the day that you guys get to go and hear your music in a parade, see it come to life at a Disney park.
Well, we just did
The
World of Color. I mean,
Yes, World of
yeah,
Colors.
it was not like with actors doing the thing, but we were at Disneyland and we saw it with the big fountain show, which was fast. I was like, oh, maybe in a few years, we'll see it trickle down to the parks. But oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. That was magical. But more to come, you know.
that's it. Like you can't. This is an amazing accomplishment, but you can't really just put. This is not the ceiling. This is just the foundation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've learned so much from this experience. I can't wait to take everything that we got on this journey to the next jobs and stories that we get to tell.
What's the most valuable thing you learned?
Oh, what is the most valuable thing? A lot. I think the biggest thing that I'm learning is knowing that I can put my foot down on things that I feel strongly about, because a lot of times, well, I'm just scared of everything in general, but like I'm scared to speak up because I feel like, oh, everyone knows better than me. Everyone else they know so much more than I do. Like whatever I'm thinking is not worth saying, but I'm learning that it is worth saying, even just to put the idea out there, and who knows if it ends up actually making it in. But you can stand up for ideas that you believe in. Our taste is what guides us, and the whole Bridgerton experience made me realize that I can trust my gut. And going through this journey, I've come out of it wishing that I trusted my gut just a little bit more on little things. But we're all learning.
That right? Like nothing's a loss. Everything's a learning moment.
Oh, yeah.
And you're there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Your ideas matter, and even if you're right, even if they're not the idea that goes with it, that idea could sway the entire creative collaboration process.
You never know what something that you say or someone else says sparks whatever. Like, I know that they said things in meetings that probably set us on a different path while writing a song, even subconsciously. So you just never know.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
I mean, this answer changes all the time because I keep learning things. But I think, like, I learned that it's not about instant gratification. Like, creating isn't about instantly getting feedback or a fan base or a following. Like, it's about longevity. If you want to be a creative for a long time, it's about work-life balance. It's about being open to new opportunities to grow. And like, ultimately you have to take care of yourself, and like, you have to, you know, look after your health, your wellness. Your mental health is really important. Because it's about doing it for a long time.
That. I think it's like it's a marathon, not a sprint, you know?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. That's what my mom used to always say.
My mom says that too. Wow.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You're
love ya.
amazing.
You're amazing.
nah,
Stop it.
Really.
Stop it.
If you want to listen to obviously the Moana 2 soundtrack, but anything else that Barlow Bear put out, it's all on Amazon Music waiting for you. Link below. Thanks for being here.
We
Thank
love
you.
Love you back. Abigail Barlow, Emily Bear, everybody.
Woo.